Hello, everyone. Welcome to another PIE Chat Live. My name's Nick Cuthbert. I'm the Director of Insight at the PIE. And for the next half an hour, we're going to be talking about the student experience Rewired, how AI can become your superpower. Now, this is part of a series we've been doing with the PIE. At our PIE Live conferences around the world, we've been doing some speed dives into AI and the use of AI. And we've been really trying hard to get experts and enthusiasts in the industry to tangibly show us or explain to us how they're using AI tools in their day-to-day work and strategy. I'm delighted today to be joined by Paul Napleton, who is Head of Digital and Marketing Automation at UEA, the University of East Anglia. Hello, Paul.
Hi there. Lovely to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Well, thanks for coming back. You've, of course, been with us before. Paul, in addition to the PIE events, you've also been supporting Salesforce events. There are
That's right.
two big education summits coming up, of which you're speaking on this subject of use of AI. For people who are interested, the 21st of May is the London Summit, the Education Summit for Salesforce. And the 13th and 15th of May is actually in San Diego, the big one in the US. Paul, just tell us briefly, you're going to be speaking at both of those conferences, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm really excited. It's my third year in a row speaking at Education Summit, and I'm going to be talking a lot more this time about artificial intelligence. And my sort of session is going to be called the kind of countdown to liftoff. So the five key things that I think everyone across the sector should be thinking about when it comes to really turbocharging their efficiency and productivity and their student engagement using artificial intelligence. So we'll have some interesting kind of use cases and some examples, and I'm going to be presenting alongside someone from Maryville University as well. So we're going to get the kind of transatlantic examples going as well. So I'll be presenting that at the London version as well.
Fantastic. The five tips, the countdown to liftoff. Okay, for people probably can see at the bottom of the screen here, there is a button if you want to register for the London Summit. And yeah, a reminder to everybody that this is a live webinar, and we do them live so that you can ask us questions, you can comment, you can tell us where you're from, and basically you can get involved. So I can see people are doing that. Yeah, people joining us, University of East London. Yeah, so please tell us where you're from. If you want to ask Paul a formal question, you can do it using the Q&A, the question mark tab on the right-hand side of the screen. Okay, Paul, so let's get into this. I think a good place to start, something that I think needs explaining before we go into some of the tools that you're using, is
Yeah.
the difference between predictive AI and generative AI. Could you explain that for us?
Yeah, of course. I think there's so much, buzzwords and jargon that go around when it comes to edtech, but I think you're going to be hearing an awful lot about predictive AI and Gen AI in particular, if you haven't already. So predictive AI really is stuff that's been around a little bit longer. So it uses machine learning and models essentially for forecasting. So providing insights to aid things like next best action and future behavior. So,
Mhm.
companies like Amazon and Netflix have been using this for many years, and we'll all be familiar as consumers in that. So, how we could use that for education would be, for example, looking at risk students who might really benefit from some timely communications, or alumni who maybe haven't engaged in a while. So, it's kind of predictive and forward looking.
Mhm.
Gen AI is the thing that's made everyone get very excited about artificial intelligence in the last year or so. So, that's more about taking action, using prompts and existing data to create new assets. You can use it to streamline tasks via automation or create new content, and accelerate your ability to do that. So, for example, segmenting your campaign audiences or delivering personalized emails. Somebody who maybe has attended an open day or an event, but maybe not yet applied, etc.
Okay, so this kind of heavy lifting of automation, of the kind of, because there's so many variants, creative variants that we we could do, but
Yeah,
obviously traditionally that's been a lot of quite manual work to make all of those variations. But
absolutely. I mean,
generative AI can do that for you now.
it can do, yeah. And I think, we'll probably come on to it later, but actually it's kind of knowing what AI can do and what it kind of can't do yet, and also
Mm.
understanding how it fits in with the rest of your team and your blend. I mean, certainly in my team, we want to use AI to help us do some of the heavy lifting, some of the more monotonous and repetitive activity,
Yeah.
and to act as an extra member or two of the team. I'm sure we're all in similar boats. We'd all love to have more resource and more people, but actually, if it can do some of the stuff that saves your people time, and then they can focus on more added value stuff, and I think that's where the benefit comes as well. I think we're talking about predictive and generative AI, of course, but I think there's a really interesting kind of chain of thought that shows that there are four main waves of AI that are coming. So if you think of them as like consecutive waves. So if predictive AI was kind of like the first wave, and we've been having that for a while, and then Gen AI is now kind of taking over, and we're kind of early days of really utilizing that. There's two more waves as they're currently seeing it at the moment. So you kind of go on to more agent and autonomous led AI, so AI that can really think for itself. And I think there are some advanced examples, early adopter examples with some of the big companies who are doing that. But then the fourth wave is really kind of artificial general intelligence. So that's the stuff that's probably decades away. That is very much more like the science fiction movies. So pure, genuine artificial intelligence that can think and act like a human. So it's interesting to see that this is all part of a progression, and there's a technological development and advancement that we're only really just beginning to see.
Okay. There may have just been a little technical blip there. I just dropped off, I think, and came back, but hopefully everybody's still with us. Paul, on this split between, between the two types, so predictive AI and generative AI, how much of each do you think you're using? I'm assuming the generative stuff is much more of the new test and learn element,
Yeah.
whereas you've been doing more of the predictive AI through kind of data collection and data work for quite a long time now at your institution.
Yeah, that's right. And as I say, we've all been living with predictive AI for a while, even if we didn't really kind of call it that as such. If but what's really fascinating is the kind of maturity curve and the acceleration and popularity of generative AI. That's why everyone's so excited about it, and people are looking at the opportunities within the sector to really kind of turbo boost what they do and how they do it. So I think a lot of our new test and learn activity is certainly more in the generative AI space. So thinking about how we can utilize it to optimize our web content, for example, or how we can personalize our kind of search recommendations on our site, how we can utilize it for meta tag descriptions, how we can use it for video and content and imagery creation, etc., etc. At the same time, we are able to utilize predictive AI really well for things like send time optimization with our CRM, or we are able to look at all of our modeling and forecasting in an advanced way. So I think Gen AI is really exciting, but when I think about how quickly Gen AI is kind of people are adopting it, it does make me wonder if that's where people are getting really excited about that. But it's important to think about the predictive AI as well as generative AI. It's really interesting because I think it took Facebook something like 4 or 5 years to get to 100 million users. Okay, so 4 or 5 years, and
Mm.
it's taken Chat GPT 2 months to get that level of user base. And
Yeah.
and we always thought TikTok exploded out of the blocks, but it took 9 months for them to get to 100 million. So you can see where the opportunity is, but at the same time, it's all a bit sparkly and new, and it's all a bit unproven still. So
Mm.
I think that's probably something we'll come on to later. So I think if you're going to use AI, particularly in an HE kind of capacity, you have to almost act as like the sheriff of the Wild West. There's a lot that you could do out there, and it's not all going to be good. So having a bit of a North Star, having a plan, having a crawl, walk, run methodology is probably really going to help you when you start kind of developing your use cases and blend that predictive and generative AI mix.
Yeah, yeah. Referencing the PI events that we've been doing, the sessions on AI, I've been really surprised by the number of people in the room who are put their hands up and say, yes, we are using this on a daily basis or a weekly basis. So for personal tasks, as you say, for quite repetitive tasks, using AI to really increase their output. And then you've got these really incredible cases of new innovation and technology in uh, different parts of the student experience or the student journey, where people are coming up with uh, really AI tools that interrogate big data to make things more efficient and more personalized to the student. Okay,
Yeah.
so could you try and describe to us some of these user cases then that you've been using AI for, things that are getting you excited? In the previous times we've talked, you've really been quite a pioneer, particularly in setting up Salesforce and a Salesforce culture within your institution. And I think by having that early pioneers, testing and learning things, now Salesforce has the education cloud. It has quite an established blueprint for institutions. So I think we're moving on to, breaking new ground again. You're
Yeah.
looking at new areas and kind of pushing the boundaries. So tell us what you're up to.
Yeah, sure. I think, well, I like to think of myself as a bit of an innovator, and I love kind of bringing the outside in. And my background is more kind of non-HE, so it's more kind of big brand and corporate. And I just see the massive opportunity and the potential for sort of transformative change using technology, such as AI. And I think what's really clever is that companies like Salesforce are kind of really kind of bringing to kind of integrate all of that together as a connected digital ecosystem. So that's the
Yeah.
language that I utilize within the UEA, for example, kind of bringing together all of these digital touch points and using transformative technology to kind of build that trust with our students and prospective students early, to create more of a 360 view by stitching together all of the different data sources
Mhm.
that we have, and using it to kind of build that sense of community, build the, hyper personalization at scale, uh, and trying to do that increasingly in real time. Don't just wait for the campaign to happen, look at it, oh, that's great, right, we're on to the next part of the student life cycle. We want to make this in real time. We want to know that it's going to work because of the forecasting that, for example, AI helps us with, and
Mm.
so on. But the the crucial thing is you're only as good as the data that you put in. So in order to build trust in things like artificial intelligence, and for institutions to be able to have that trust, you've got to have the quality of the data, and you've got to be working with partners that you can trust. Um, so therefore, I think it's really important to look at that. So the sort of things that we're building on that kind of connected digital ecosystem that I've kind of helped create, and my team have helped us deliver over the last few years. Because we've had Salesforce for a while, but the marketing cloud bit is the kind of bit that I've been kind of really driving and championing in, and it's enabling us to have increasingly personalized, dynamic content and engagement with our students. So there's three main areas where I think we're interested in AI and where I feel that we can make a big difference, and we've
Mhm.
got tests across all of these three at the moment. So the first main area is around using AI for data-driven decision making.
Mm.
So the sort of things I mean here are like, increasingly targeted advertising, using it for research, using it for kind of predictions. So we don't just hope, we kind of know because of the kind of the modeling, and this is where predictive kind of AI has still got a really important role. The 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 next area that we're using it, and it's a big one, is kind of personalized marketing. So that'll be things like, we've got sort of chat bots. We're using increasingly predictive analytics, as I mentioned, but we're looking at recommendation engines and next best actions, and using it to kind of create dynamic content blocks for our kind of CRM activities, and also utilizing it within our search optimization, both kind of on our site and in the kind of search engine results pages. You can see already that Google are really switching towards AI driven paid search results and so on, and maybe even putting it behind a paywall soon. So they're seeing the shift as well,
Mm.
moving to kind of the search generative experience and the kind of Google perspectives. You know, if you're looking at paid search, you've got to be thinking about AI, and equally, we're looking at kind of the impact on AI on our search activity as well. So that's the second kind of core area, and we've got kind of a variety of tests underway with some of our partners like Salesforce, with Unibuddy. We use Algolia for our kind of on-site search, for example. We're using kind of Bard and ChatGPT, numerous tests and use cases across our kind of undergraduate and postgraduate journeys. But the third and final kind of key area is around improving the student experience. So what I mean by that is using things like virtual assistants and, complementing student support services. How can you kind of streamline and make more efficient your procurement or your admissions process by kind of um, improving the sort of the repetitive nature of some of the questions that might come in? How can you automate some of the kind of repetition that comes in via social media, for example? And increasingly to try and look at ways that AI can help create more tailored recommendations and insights as students move and progress from being a learner to an earner. How can you have that lifelong relationship with AI? So those are the three main areas that we're doing, and we've got examples and tests live on all of them. So having a structured plan really helps with AI because there's so much you could do. Understanding which are the kind of main use cases that you're trying to work on really helps. But I think the having that growth mindset is massively important. So I kind of instill that in my team. It's not all of it's going to work. So have that fail forward mentality.
Yeah.
Um, and there's a big difference between kind of organizations and people in the sector who are like, there, there's a there's three main stages. I think it was Deloitte who kind of came up with this, which is really nice shorthand. So they kind of describe it as everyone's kind of going digital. We can all see the benefit. We've got people in teams who kind of were making traditional processes and systems kind of go digital. The next stage is to kind of do digital. So we'll be utilizing some of the technologies and so on, AI automation and analytics. But to truly be digital, you've got to be looking at ways in which the AI and technology like this saves your people time. So it enables your people to look for genuine added value, new ways of doing things. That's how you're kind of really transforming using digital transformation. So we're looking to kind of try and have that blend of activity and tests that complement that.
I think it's really, really fascinating because for the first time, really when I talk to you about these things, I'm seeing for the first time higher education start to replicate some of the kind of the digital customer best practice that we see elsewhere in society. And I've always felt there's been a big gap. Higher
Mm,
education, we've got a long way to catch up. But what you're describing really is best practice in terms of meeting everyday expectations of students, of saying, I watch Netflix and the experiences like this. So when I interact with an institution, I want to have a similar experience. And that this idea of tailoring choices, tailoring communications based on quite a granular level of how I'm interacting is really important, as opposed to just working on, market segmentation that's kind of
yeah,
historic or. So for the first time, I'm starting to see this come into play. It's quite exciting.
it is. It's massively exciting. I think, that's the thing that kind of keeps me in the sector, that transformative opportunity to change and to grow. And I think I read a report that said that AI has got so much potential for growth still. I mean, and actually higher education is one of the biggest sectors. So the global AI market, right, is going to grow to an estimated 407 billion, I believe, by
Mm.
2027. Okay, so that's huge. But HE is one of the top five sectors apparently for productivity improvements. It's
Yeah.
estimated at a 4% improvement in productivity. That's going to, well, if so, the institutions that are going to get this right are going to see a huge advantage. So we talk a lot about how in the sector it's important to look at your reputation and your location and so on. But actually, I've always been a passionate believer that in any sector that I'm working in, that you can really win through data. So if you have great data and you're drawing great insights and you're creating actions off the back of that, that's how you can really get an advantage. So yeah, it is exciting, and I think um, sometimes it needs a lot of cultural change, and maybe the sector isn't always the fastest from my experience in terms of that. But if you can bring people with you, that softer side of technological change is just as important as the kind of the harder side, the more kind of nuts
Yeah.
and bolts side, because you can, if you can demonstrate the benefits it has, why they're going to get more job satisfaction out of it, how it's going to help them smash their targets better and to help support students more, then I think you're onto a winner.
Yeah. Well, you touched on that, didn't you, in terms of demonstrating how this helps me as an employee, saves time, helps with my job, helps with my productivity, and also helps the student with the same things, that they get a better user experience. The combination of those two things, will make adoption much better. Talking on that point then, because you've talked in the past about change, digital transformation, how hard it is at universities, how you need to build a culture around terminology and vision and so on. There will definitely be people in the audience here who are still looking at which direction to go in, maybe considering something like Salesforce for the first time. This year, you've been talking about this idea of silo busting. This is your next coined phrase. Why do you think 2024 is a year of silo busting, and what do you mean?
Well, I think like with anything, the if you build the solid foundations, then you know that you're able to then kind of build from a confident base. That's an approach that we took from our when we were setting up our marketing cloud activity right from the very start. If you're building on slightly uh, rocky ground, then you're going to have problems later on. So it goes back to that point around, you know, we need to be building on solid foundations to have that trust. So
Mm,
things like AI, data, automation, CRM is all underpinned by trust. So if higher education institutions can really silo bust and integrate the data that we've all got across our different teams and departments, from events to housing, registration, careers service, alumni, really try and stitch together that data, build the 360 view and put it into your CRM or customer data platform, you're going to then be able to start delivering on that. And AI can help with that because
mm,
you've got that strong foundation. So, it will enable us to kind of drive an improvement in our overall staff efficiency. I mean, there's no doubt there. It will deliver higher student engagement and student admissions and recruitment will improve as well. And we'll be able to more clearly have confidence in the KPIs and the ROI metrics that we might need to evidence back. So um, I think it is important though to kind of flag that AI can be time saving, but we also need to act on the insights. There's no point getting data and going, oh, that's nice, and then not doing anything off the back of it.
mm.
Um, AI will give you the opportunity to kind of have real-time insights, like I mentioned earlier. So you need to be able to act on all of this big data and turn it into action. So the more we can have streamlined data collection and analytics, it's going to help us, for example.
Okay. A quick reminder to the audience: if you want to ask Paul a question, you can do so. I can see there is a question already in this special tab at the side here. Um, uh, it's my understanding, Paul. Obviously, one of the strengths of ChatGPT in particular is that it can basically build workarounds and give you the code for these workarounds quite easily. So connecting what has been siloed systems or information is actually, it's never been easier to connect the two. You can literally point an AI tool now at one thing and
Yeah,
say, summarize this or curate it, or
absolutely.
bring me the highlights here, and bring it back into another
Uh,
system.
Oh,
So, the
yeah,
fact that we've had different systems in the past and that's been a big barrier, really, that we're getting past that quite quickly now.
definitely. And that's what's really exciting. We're literally able now to talk to data. I mean, that's incredible, isn't it? You can talk to data. So, increasingly with the sort of some of the innovations that I can talk more to Salesforce, but other technologies are going to do similar things here with virtual assistants. Talk to your data. Hey, I'd like to speak to this kind of audience using this kind of information who are interested in this, and it'll just create the campaign brief and campaign journeys for you. It's going to save you loads of time. It's
Yeah.
going to pull together and stitch all this data together from your different sources. That's how you can really build that 360. And then, of course, we all know that students can be quite savvy when it comes to privacy, and quite rightly so. But it's a value exchange. If students will give up their data if you're really transparent about it, and they will get something added value back. So if you're giving them personalized, timely, relevant communications at a channel that suits them, at a time that suits them, in a way that suits them and benefits them, then you're going to be able to kind of get loads of opportunities to kind of build those strong relationships and trust with the students. So I think that's a really exciting development for the sector.
Yeah, something I've been writing about is this advent of what it means to be a university guidance counselor. In the past, it was really about somebody's own knowledge, knowing the choices, understanding the application process, and imparting that knowledge to a student to help them make better choices. But with the whole world of universities and university choices in terms of courses, it's impossible for people to be able to retain that information. So the real skill is now becoming about prompt writing and interrogating big data to make sure you extract the right information on behalf of a student. So a lot of these
Yeah.
AI tools are really quite internal use. So a lot of agents developing them, a lot of people using them internally to make sure that they get the right information to then present externally.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. You've also described AI as a superpower. We use the term in the title of this webinar, but with great power comes great responsibility.
Of
Uh,
course.
as an example, we in an AI session we ran recently, uh, 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 somebody for fun kind of AI manipulated and kind of faked a presenter saying something else to show how easy it was to do that, to kind of deep fake somebody else and their words. And it really raised this idea of ethics, what controls are here. I
Mm.
know within a university environment there's been a lot of ethical and academic committees considering the ethics of this. How are you navigating that? And yeah, do you worry about what access you give AI tools to your data?
Yeah, so I think I used the term the Wild West early, and how you've got to be the sheriff. And I think if you're an early adopter within your industry, yeah, or within your institution, you've got to try and pin a badge on yourself and really go out and lead by example. Because um, that for me is about working with a few trusted providers who are
Mhm.
sharing your kind of brand values and your kind of ethical principles when it comes to AI. So one of the first things that I did was create uh, an AI strategy paper and focus on a set of AI principles that I felt that we needed to kind of adhere to. So no tests will get underway until we're confident that it's meeting those principles. So um, guiding principles, to help avoid things like bias and the hallucinations and remain ethical. That I think it's really important. So things like being accountable, being transparent, being representative, inclusive, aligning with your brand values, for example.
Mm.
Thinking about what AI means, not just for helping with recruitment or for Marcoms, but what it means for our students and our staff. How are we going to educate them and empower them to utilize it? How are we going to contribute and give back to the sector, by things like this and so on. So I think um, if you have your moral code, like a chef would have, if you want to use the analogy still, you can try and avoid the Wild West. You can try and keep an eye by working with trusted partners or deputies, if you like, and, you know, um, sort of trying to maintain a sense of structured control as much as it's exciting. As I said, it's a bit sparkly still. It needs a bit of governance. It needs certainly those principles, that North Star, to help you remain on track, because it's not all going to work, but some
Mm.
of it will. And it's far better if everyone's kind of bought into that culturally, because then you're setting yourselves up for success again.
Yeah.
And we need to be aware a little bit as well of the hype circle when it comes to, or the hype cycle when it comes to kind of artificial intelligence. I think Gartner have got a really cool hype cycle kind of model that shows that we've probably massively peaked when it comes to AI, and then we're kind of maybe beginning potentially the next year or two, kind of in that sort of, I think they call it the trough of disillusionment, as we kind of go down and people realize actually some of this is quite hard, and we maybe can't quite evidence the impact, and getting really excited by the art of the possible, but then they have got to stitch together the data and they have got to kind of prove it works and so on. And eventually you kind of end up in a sort of middle ground where you have transformed the sector, you have found what works and everything else, but you need to have that patience, you need to have that test and learn mentality. And so I think if you've got strong principles, if you are if you're looking at the risk and the ethics, and you're looking at it from a altruistic perspective, then I think that will put you in good stead. Because the other thing to be wary of is that students will kind of see through stuff if it's fake, if the content's not right, or if it's tacky, or if it's
Yeah.
potentially exploitative. They're using AI as well. They're more advanced than any of us, as is general with the technology. So they're using it. I saw some JISC research recently, and they're using it for a variety of things, like for well-being, for comms and content for research, for study, and all sorts,
Mm.
for looking for jobs. So um, they'll expect universities to be able to utilize AI in their communications with them, in their relationships with them, but also in terms of how they teach the best uses of it. So I think if you can start off demonstrating that ethical, those principles aligned to your brand values, then I think you're onto a good start.
Yeah. I mean, I think the University of Liverpool said to me, that digital transformation is painful.
Mm,
It really is, and we all would
yeah,
rather avoid it in most cases, especially, when it boils down to kind of IT upgrades and so on. It is painful, but the direction of travel is only going one way. So it's
yeah,
better to get started. And as you say, each year gets better and better. The
yeah,
data gets better, the data pool gets bigger, and the tools get smarter and more accessible. Okay, there is a question. Let's cover it because we've come to the end of the half an hour. So this is from Rachel, who's asking: do we, the universal we, know that students want an AI, or that it will even improve the student experience? So don't students still want to seek out face-to-face interactions? So this idea that people think that AI is, it's going to be talking to AI in a chatbot sense, that it's going to be a computer giving advice or a computer interacting with the
yeah.
student and choices. That's not necessarily the case, is it?
No, no, and it kind of it's a good question. But it kind of goes back to what I said earlier. It's not one or the other. It's humans with the AI. It's augmenting what we already do. So, I agree with you. I'm a big proponent for kind of peer-to-peer communications, and more than ever, we want to be not that students don't want to hear what we say at university. They want to hear what the students or the staff are saying. So, we work with Unibuddy, for example, and we're doing some great stuff with them, and they do a lot of work in terms of growing the sense of community, so kind of group chat and conversation. But we've got a chatbot going live, which kind of is effectively a chatbot, but then ultimately it passes people off at certain points to, do you want to speak to someone now, do you want to talk to somebody,
Yeah.
and that's a perfect blend of the technology with the people involved. I've seen some great demos from Salesforce on their new Service Cloud product which is kind of like say a student was talking to a live person via live chat. The AI will be listening to the conversation and pulling in the latest. Oh, here's a really relevant web article, or here's an event that could be really useful to mention, helping the human, if you like, totally tailor and personalize what this person wants. And then it's automatically writing a follow-up email for you, summarizing the conversation and what they need to do next. And then all the person's got to do at the end is press a button. And then you've had that wonderful human interaction with totally tailored up to the minute insights tailored for them, and then they've had a automated follow-up immediately afterwards. That's saving time, money, it's building relationships and so on. So it's very
Yeah.
much a collaboration and a synergy of technology with people.
Okay. Right, we are out of time. I want to thank everybody for listening. I think it's probably whet everybody's appetite in terms of learning more. Remember, there is the Salesforce Education Summit in London, which is the 21st of May, of which Paul will be speaking at, and you can book via the button below. Paul, if people want to get in touch with you directly as well, I guess LinkedIn or something like that is a good place. You are, as you've described, you're really open in terms of the learning community and helping others and giving advice. You're happy for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of a proud JISC kind of advocate, community member. So I'm very happy to help, and whether it's at events or online, just get in touch, and it'd be great to hear what other people are doing as well in the same capacity.
Perfect. Okay, everyone. We will see you again soon. Thank you for listening. And Paul, best of luck with the presentations at the
Thank you.
Salesforce Summit. All
Thank you.
right.
See you soon.
Bye, everybody.